we'll start in a couple of minutes on top of the hour. But I think there's still people signing in. We've got quite a few that are there now, but no massive rush. So it's just good to have so many people coming online. I'm assuming most people will know who you are, Peter, but I'll introduce you anyway. I spent most of one day last week reading through every page of your remuneration report.
A little light bedtime reading for you.
Well, exactly. I think it took me a day and a half to go through it and summarize it because people on the webinar are aware, but I still own my, as with so many products in the MSP ecosystem, they come from MSPs, and I still own my MSP. We've got about 40 staff in the MSP business. And I spent most of a day and a half, I think, going through it. And then I spent yesterday briefing my senior management team in the MSP business about what the takeaways and how to apply them to our business. And the answer for me was that there were so many things we could do better, but we sort of had to pick 3 or 4 and focus on those. Because the best-in-class traits that you identified, I mean, there's just so much great information there that it's sort of a massive leap from where I think a lot of MSPs are today.
Yeah, I always encourage any MSP that's trying to change their business, and really this would apply to any business in general, but particularly in managed services as an industry, that don't try to do everything at once. That I like the EOS system of planning and focus on a few rocks every quarter. And so when you receive the report, and it's a worldwide report, compensation report, remuneration report, wages, when you receive it and go through it, don't try to change 20 things next week in your business. Focus in on, as a management team, typically 2 to 4 significant things per quarter. If you can do that over the course of a year, you've changed 8 to 16 things in your business. And that goes for the traits that we teach in Sleek. That goes for the things that we talk about in the report. So the report is really designed to give you an overall look. And we brought it back a year ago. This is the second year we've done it in a row. Service leadership used to do this report, and the last time they did it was 2016 using data collected in 2015. We brought it back last year because of a lot of requests for the data, and we made significant modifications to it for this year, and we brought it back updated this year. And part of the reason we've put so much into this is we've received really, really good feedback about it. And last year we had an all-time record number of companies put in their data. And if you put in your data, you get a free copy of the report. This year, the sample grew by 50% over the all-time record last year. So to me, I think our takeaway on that was that the report was well received, that a lot of people used it in their business, got benefit from it, and wanted to see even more this year. So we added even more this year to it.
Peter, I feel that we've actually started the webinar now. I was going to introduce you, I was going to a bit of banter and get going, but I feel like we've got going already, which is great. So for those that are on the session, thank you for joining us. My name's Andrew Hunt. I'm the founder of getKambium, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this webinar and how it ties into best-in-class, most profitable MSPs. My guest today is Peter Kujawa. Peter is a friend of mine. It was a great honour to be able to say that. We're looking forward to catching up soon. Peter runs Service Leadership, which is a ConnectWise business. And as he was just saying, they are launching or have just launched their annual remuneration survey. It is a phenomenal piece of work. Peter and my own MSP, as I said, we sat down and had a look and realised things like we were spending the right proportion of our revenue on salaries and wages, but our headcount was lower than what your best-in-class numbers reveal. So in our case, we sat there realising that we have too many senior staff. I did a little graph of our staff distribution, compared it to the one in your report. And it's really clear to see where we're at. And yet my staff here are saying to me, Guy, we need more senior people. We don't have enough folk. You need to hire more people and more senior people. I'm comparing that with your data and thinking that there is a misalignment there. We're following through the sleep process in the MSP business, and it's really useful to go and find the tools that tell you what changes you need to make and how to make them.
Yeah, in some cases, the report is going to give you answers, and it's going to provide you with data that is going to tell you this is what I should be paying this person, or this is what I should be paying based on the experience, etc. In other cases, if you're looking at it with a critical eye, it's actually going to have the effect that it had with you, and that is it's going to force you to ask some difficult questions and say, wait a second, if this is how the best in class are doing it, and this is what the numbers look like, or this is what best in class utilization looks like, why is that here and we're here? And so it's oftentimes it's not something that you can, sometimes you can just make a quick decision and change things, but typically for really quality change to happen in the business, you have to ask a lot of questions about why, and then understand what is it that those companies are doing differently to run their business than what you're doing, and drive the change in that way. That's how you really get long-standing change that's going to stick and is going to make a bit impact on your business quarter over quarter.
One of the things that we were saying as we were just chatting it informally before, some of the changes that businesses need to make to adopt best-in-class practices are huge. They'll be quite a big step from where a business is now. It's certainly the case in our MSP. By the way, we do pretty well. And one of the things I'm trying to take my team is let's not do it all at once. Let's just pick one thing, do it this quarter. Some of the tasks actually are more than a quarter. So, for example, inverting your skills pyramid to have a really good onboarding system for junior staff and being able to have more junior staff, that's not a 1 quarter piece of work. That's a year's worth of work. It takes ages to get the processes set up, to recruit the staff, to test the system, and to make sure that it's working.
It does, to fully complete the process, it does. And frankly, it's a process that's never really fully done. You're always, a great business is always going to be making improvements in that process. But you definitely should be able to break it down into quarterly increments and be able to make significant progress each quarter. If it's only focused on as an annual objective, then oftentimes it can be viewed as too much to get off the ground and just it never gets fully started. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into really running your business in the right way. That's why we have Sleek built the way that we have it built, is to really identify what your operational maturity level is today, but then go in on a very granular basis and understand how you're doing business today and what are the things that you should be looking at in order to make an impact on the business so that you're not trying to do everything at once. I think, especially in our industry, given that our industry, most MSPs were founded by and typically are run by technologists, the desire is I'm here to solve this as a problem. And so let's look at the entire thing in totality and solve it all. And I'm not going to rest until I have solved everything. And that might work in projects and that might work in troubleshooting tickets, but it doesn't work great in driving business improvement incrementally into your business.
Well, that's a point I want to pick up on, actually, because as you say, most MSPs, including my own, by the way, I'm a technical person first and foremost as well. They're founded by people that are quite operational in nature. We are technical folk. We see a problem, we want to fix it. And one of the problems one of the issues that I've had MSPs talk to me about in our getKambium journey is them saying, you know what, I need to understand my client's business. I need to transition to having away from owner-led sales. So as an owner, I go in, I see a thing that's broken, I see a thing that could be better, I want to make that technically better solution. But owners don't tend to do, owners of businesses understand a business issue and they're trying to have a different conversation with their customer about what the customer's trying to achieve. So just as you've said, in our own MSP businesses, we need to achieve these things, make these changes. our customers have the same thing to do. And what MSPs are telling me is how hard it is to transition and have that conversation across their sales team. You've got quite a lot of data on sales teams in your remuneration report. How do you see that transition to building out sales teams and building out growth frameworks across those teams? How does that intersect with Sleek?
Well, there's a few different things that go into that. First of all, you need to have a compensation model or remuneration model that the incentives are aligned with your success as an MSP. So you want to have the ideal model is to have hunters and farmers split out so that you have hunters who are really good at going out and identifying new business opportunities and qualifying accounts and getting those accounts to do a paid assessment and all of those kind of things, and that you have a farmer or a technical account manager or a VCIO. I hear them referred to by a lot of different names, but somebody who does post-sale account management of that account. And that person, it should be paid on things like quarterly business review completion, on getting the customer onto your full technology stack, on getting all of their customers onto all of your offerings, also known as cross-selling. So those are things that we have compensation incentive plan design information in Sleek that talk about how to do those things on a quarterly basis. That's very different than having an incentive plan that's designed exclusively to sell more things. If you have an incentive plan for your account manager that says you're going to get paid more if you sell more, well, if I'm an account manager, I'm going to try to spend all my time selling more things, right? And so as a result, I'm not going to be real interested in spending a lot of time on things like QBRs that I maybe perceive don't bring me new business. Now, the reality is, if I'm effectively delivering QBRs, they will bring me more business. I live in a farming area in the US and Wisconsin, and I talk about not doing QBRs is like a farmer planting the field and not showing up to harvest it at the end of the season. That QBRs are really designed to have conversations to create roadmaps for long-term technology implementation. But it's really, really important that the account manager focus on understanding that business and understanding what's the business trying to achieve. We have all the things we're trying to achieve, but what does the business owner care about, and what are the problems they're trying to solve? And think about it a different way. If the business owner looks back in 3 to 5 years, what is it that's going to lead them to say this company was unbelievably great to work with? They helped me get from here to here. Well, if I don't understand what here to here is for that business or what they're trying to do to get from here to here, how do I help them achieve it?
I think that's exactly right. You've got to have a conversation with the customer. So just as we in our MSPs are trying to scale out, we're trying to automate process, reduce internal costs, we're trying to achieve new revenue goals by expanding, we're trying to take on new technologies like Copilot, for example, and take that out to our customers and package it well. Our customers have got the same things. And if we can't have that conversation with the customer to find out, as you say, they're going from here to here, how do they plan to do it? What's their board told them that they need to do? What are the risks they need to mitigate? We have to have the right conversation with the customer and then take that back and show the customer how the services that we have in our stack will help them to achieve those goals. What I notice is that that's a conversation that sales find hard to do quite often, or businesses are trying to scale out across their sales team. An owner sort of naturally does that because that's part of their day-to-day life. But as they bring on board a sales team, that sales team finds that a sort of a foreign conversation to have. It's something that they struggle with. Would that be consistent with your experience?
Yeah, so it's very consistent. And I think the important question to ask is why. Part of the reason is because most MSPs, when they're hiring salespeople and even account managers, they tend to put in people who understand technology into those roles. So the thought is, I understood technology. I ran this company. I grew this business up. Now I need a miniature version of me. And the reality is, first of all, if you're an entrepreneur and you've built a company and you understood technology, you're going to be pretty rare breed. The odds of you hiring somebody who has all of those skills are rare. If they did, they would have started their own company too. Um, so hiring somebody who that can come in, that can credibly talk to a business owner or a C-level executive and do it conversationally and really understand the questions to ask. I think that's a different skill set that you're trying to hire, right? You certainly having somebody who understands technology to a degree to be able to deductively understand what the customer is saying is important, but you also need to hire somebody who can sit and understand what's on a business person's mind or an owner's mind and do it in a way that that's comfortable for that business owner or that CEO or president. That they should view this person as somebody that they're comfortable talking to and has credibility and is able to have that discussion. So having somebody who maybe has been in the business world for a while, or maybe has done what they do but wants a change of pace in their career. There's a lot of places where I see companies get success in this role, but don't kid yourself. It's not an easy role to fill, and you're going to really need to put in a lot of training to help teach this skill set. I also think it's something that if you're doing QBRs right, it's something that you can build into a template and really train a good account manager to be able to do and how to have those discussions, have an agenda that really speaks to it, and be prepared for the meeting for those discussions. So it is trainable to a great extent, but I do think hiring the right person or people to be able to have those discussions is equally important.
Well, I'd observe that the first thing you need as well as the right people is you need a tool to do it with. As you say, creating a template, you need a tool, and that's of course why we built getKambium. So, personal webinar, it's the sort of unashamed plug. That's what we do. That's the problem we had in our MSP, and that's why we built the getKambium product. Peter, one of the challenges that we had was understanding what should be in a QBR. And we started off, probably like many MSPs, wanting to go into the customer and say, here's the number of backups. Here's how good the backups went last quarter. Here's how well the patching's working and the XDR and so forth. Here's how the firewall's performing. These are the licenses that are used, the machines that are getting old. And what we found if we were doing those QBRs was it was getting harder and harder to schedule those because the customer wasn't that keen on that conversation. When we found that when they did agree to meet with us, rather than seeing the C-level exec, we were sort of getting pushed down the pyramid of their staff towards somebody that was less strategic and more operational. That business conversation, in my view, has to lead the QBR. And if you do that and you're talking to the things that C-level exec cares about, effectively to their metrics, then you're more likely to have a successful engagement. But that's not the perception that MSPs seem to have. They want to have that technical conversation rather than the business one.
Well, I think part of the reason why, first of all, it's extremely accurate that that's the case. Second, I think the reason why is because most MSPs are very comfortable talking about the technology. When you start talking about somebody's strategic plan or their growth goals or some of those things, it can be a little bit more uncomfortable for a technologist to have those discussions. And so I think we all fall back into what we're comfortable with. And so MSPs historically believe that the value that they created for the business was in that technology delivery. And so going in and saying, because of us, we prevented 43,842 viruses breaking out in the last quarter, and we did well. Those are all things that seem like they're exciting to those of us in the industry, and they seem like great things to talk about, but they're not exciting to a C-level executive. Their assumption is you're doing all that stuff, right? I hired you to do all that stuff. Why are you telling me about it? I get it. So what we teach is think about it in terms of thirds. If you have 90 minutes for a meeting, the first half hour should be looking back, but not looking at all the reports and all of the antivirus activities and everything. You can have those reports as a leave behind or provide them to the client in a link, but it should be focused on since the last QBR, what has gone on? What have we done any projects for the client? Is there anything underway? Last QBR, you talked to me about X, Y, and Z. Since that time, here's what we've done. I want to make sure that you're happy with X, Y, and Z. Also, ask them if is there anything they want to talk about? Make sure that you get that out of the way right away. If you don't, they're sitting waiting to talk about that. So whatever it is, if they have some issue with your staff or a ticket or something, get it on the table right away, so that you can move past that and talk about other things. But what's gone on since the last QBR? But that should only be a third of the meeting. The other two-thirds should all be forward looking. And that gives you the opportunity to talk about what's coming up in their business, maybe a little bit of what's coming up in your business. What are some things that are going to be happening over the next quarter before the next QBR?
I think that's exactly right. If you're talking about problems, if your QBR is talking about the problems that you've encountered and technical issues, you're going to have a fairly negative meeting. If you're talking about the opportunities, and for example, how is your customer able to adopt IoT more broadly, or how are they able to mitigate a risk, or how are they able to consume things like Copilot successfully? If you're having a conversation about how they can be more successful, they're going to be much more engaged in that conversation than if you're talking about a list of PCs that need to be replaced.
Yeah, it's highest and best value. So what's more important to the customer? You have a limited amount of time. You've been able to get a C-level executive in the meeting, and which is critical. You need to, whoever is the level of individual who signs your contract should be the level of person that's in this meeting. So you've got them in there, but their time is really, really valuable. So is yours. So how are you going to use that time in a way that's going to deliver the highest amount of value to them and to you?
To what extent did you see those practices coming through in the best-in-class data from your reports?
I think the industry in general, especially the best in class, is getting much better at this. So we'll see things with those folks. They go in very prepared for their QBRs. One of the best practices that we teach is simple, but it's oftentimes not done, is have a written agenda. Provide that agenda to the customer in advance, a day or two in advance, and say, this is what we're planning on covering. And it can be virtually the same agenda that you used with your other client the day before, but add whatever specifics are on there. What are the things? Are there any action items that you need decisions made by the customer on? If so, put that on as an agenda item, key decisions, A, B, C, so that the customer knows going into the meeting, this is what we're going to focus on. And so I am seeing a better trend on the industry. And so if you're not doing this, others are, right? There's competitors out there who are having business discussions. They're doing IT roadmaps that are presenting the customer with 12 to 24 month roadmaps. There's companies out there that are starting to do a really good job at this.
They're transitioning to being consultants to some extent. And one of the things that's always surprised me is that quite often at MSPs, we charge for our least valuable staff member to reset a password for a customer. But we don't charge for the business owner or the technical consultant in the MSP to give the customer really good business advice and how technology can support it. And yet, which one of those two things is more valuable to the customer and more valuable to the MSP? And frankly, given that time is limited, as you said, actually more expensive to offer.
Yeah, and that reminds me, one other best practice is to make sure that you're ticketing your work to prepare for your QBR, deliver your QBR, and do post QBR follow-up. that time is a significant part of the expense of servicing that account. And so you should be capturing those hours so that you can really accurately look at the gross margin on the client. Uh, Not capturing those hours and not recognizing the cost of those hours to prepare for, deliver, and follow up QBRs is a source of significant gross margin leakage. And when I hear from accounts that, wow, the way that you're telling me to do this, to prepare and to go in and spend that kind of time and do that kind of follow-up, that's going to take a lot of time, Peter. And the answer is yes, it's going to take a lot of time. It's probably on average going to be about 8 hours of time per QBR. Once you look at really preparing, delivering the QBR and following it up, I would say 6 to 8 hours on average. So if you're going to do that every quarter, you're talking about 24 to 32 hours per quarter. That if you look at the cost of time of the account manager, that's a significant expense, and it goes into your service gross margin calculation. So if you're not building that cost into your cost to deliver your service offering, you're deducting the cost of that straight out of your service gross margin calc for managed services. So make sure that you're not only doing the QBRs right, but that you're capturing that time and building that time into your quotes.
And alongside that, obviously, if you've got a good framework and a great tool that helps you to do that more consistently and more time effectively across your whole sales team, that's a growth framework, a tool like getKambium, because that's, again, a shameless plug. That's why we built it. It's that framework that allows you to do that consistently across all of your sales team and to do it at a higher standard for less and take less time to do it.
Yeah, a lot of MSPs are still trying to do this without a tool to do it, and I think that's crazy. This is no different than PSA or CPQ or any of the other tools that bring you efficiency and bring you higher level capabilities. So if you can eliminate even 1 hour of preparation per QBR because you have the right tool in place, and I would certainly suspect you could deliver that and even more, um, that you more than pay for the cost of the tool. So it's a way to scale. It's a way to build efficiency in as you grow. Again, no different than any of the other tools that you purchase from ConnectWise, PSA, CPQ, RMM, etc.
And it is hard to find people that are comfortable having those conversations. So any tool that makes it easier for your sales team to have those conversations is going to give you a better outcome, because ultimately our customers have business goals, and all of those business goals rely on technology in some shape or form to help them come to fruition. Understanding what they're trying to achieve and how the MSP can help, what the MSP's role is, what the customer expects the MSP to do, is a massive sales opportunity and growth opportunity for MSPs. And if you do that across your top 10 or 15 managed clients, then you've actually got your sales plan for the customer and for your territory plan for your rep right there. Just that's the information.
Yeah, it also helps you to plan. One of the bits of guidance it's if we could shift gears a bit for a moment. We talked in our annual profitability report last year about the decline in professional services or project services gross margin. And one of the reasons why was because so many providers are doing projects for non-managed clients. One of the reasons we advise MSPs to only do projects for managed clients ties back into QBRs. If you're doing QBRs and you're building an IT roadmap, you should know exactly when projects are coming. Therefore, you should be able to schedule projects in a way that keeps your project team fully utilized. So it's a way to improve your gross margin, service gross margin for projects. It's also a way, nobody likes surprises. Um, I, I don't like I didn't love being surprised years ago for a birthday and showing up at a surprise party. It's always fun and concept, but at the end of the day, nobody likes surprises, and especially in business, right? As an MSP, you want to minimize surprises that you're getting, and your client certainly wants to minimize surprises. They don't want surprise capital purchase requirements, hardware projects. They don't want surprises in other services you're delivering. So it, this is just a great way to eliminate surprises both ways if you're planning and you're having the right conversations with the account.
It's like when you take your car in to get it serviced and the mechanic says, well, you know what, it needs a whole new this, that, or the other. And there's a couple of $1,000s you got to find that you hadn't planned for. And how you feel about that mechanic at the time is generally not that positive. You don't want your customer feeling that way about your MSP in parallel. Peter, thank you. We're getting to the end of the allotted time. I just want to really thank you for your comments. Looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks' time. We've had a great conversation covering off the importance of QBRs, the importance of understanding the customer's business needs. We've had a great conversation about how that relates to best practice and best in class inside MSPs. You've got your service leadership remuneration survey out. We started off talking about that. Is there anything you want to share in terms of how people on the call can get a copy of that?
Yeah, you bet. I'll show a slide in a second. So first of all, I'm excited. We were talking very, very early in our call. I'll be coming over to Australia for IT Nation Connect in Sydney in August. So those of you who are Evolve members, I'll be at your meetings in August. And those of you who are not, you can still come to IT Nation Connect in Sydney, and I'll be there for the whole week. So can't wait to see you over there, Andrew. In the meantime, I will provide an offer, and so we have, if you scan the QR code here, you can get a free executive summary of our report. And we did currency conversion this year, really excited about that. So providers who are in Australia or New Zealand, we did currency conversion both ways, including to the US dollar for blended, and New Zealand to Australia dollar. So we have explanations in there, but the bottom line is it allows you to use the data on a very localized basis. So that's in the full report, but scan the QR code here and you can get a free copy of the report, and it'll take you to the page if you want to buy a copy of the full report. It'll be well worth it for you.
Thanks, Peter. And just, I know you and I talked a bit about Australia and New Zealand, but of course this is worldwide. There's
not sure, Andrew, if you're frozen up or if I am. Perhaps if somebody could indicate in the chat. Okay, very good. So I will finish what I believe his thought was for everybody else. So it is a worldwide report. We have Australia, New Zealand specific data in there. We show US, European data, Canadian data. We show it by region, and we convert it, and we show it averaged out as well. So that's why the report is over 400 pages. It's not because you have to read all 400 pages. You can find the sections that are appropriate for your area and focus just on those as well. But we show the data. We have almost 60 positions in this year's report. So we have all of those positions broken down all sorts of different ways.
Hey, thanks, Peter. I'm sorry I dropped out there for a second. It's Murphy's Law, I guess. Murphy.
Yeah, that's okay. Be happy, Andrew. If there's any questions anybody has, be happy to answer any questions as well.
Same. Well, let's do that now, shall we? Do we have any questions from anybody on the call?